We're taking the M40 and putting in some serious beef under the hood in this episode of the Gear Guide. So guys, if you watched my original review of this gun, you know I really liked it. It had a lot of pre-upgraded parts out of the box, but like every sniper rifle you purchase stock, it does shoot a little soft and typically well below the sniper limits on most airsoft fields. So it's only natural when you get a sniper rifle is to start pouring those internal parts in to really see what they can do. And that's what I did with my M40 from ASG. So once I finished the original review, I couldn't wait to take to the internet and get the parts. Hit a couple major online retailers and grabbed up a bunch of Action Army parts. Pretty affordable, good mix of price and performance, in my opinion, at least in my experience I've had with them and reading the reviews online. Plus the M40 does have a couple unique things where you've got to be mindful about how to upgrade it. That really evolves around the trigger assembly. It's not going to be one you can really drop in. They do make one, ASG does, for their 338 AWS, and you can actually put that one on here. But I wanted to go with something a little more off the shelf to show you guys what's possible with the M40 without having to use a certain company's components. So I opted for a new piston, a new trigger sear assembly, hardened steel, and a new spring guide, as well as a new spring. So those are really my four components. I actually had a Type R barrel already in my collection. I put it in here. It's a little actually shorter than the stock one, but I found it works just perfect. So getting inside, tearing this thing down, I really went to work. For the most part, everything went in pretty simply. The piston worked fine. Changing out the actual barrel and the hop-up assembly, had to figure out how that all worked. No big deal there at all. The way this thing works, because of the magazine where it is so far back on the gun, it's way back here in front of the trigger guard, and then of course it actually feeds a lot farther up in the gun. There are a few more components you're going to get into and have to take off to get inside the gun to do all your full upgrades, but it's no big deal. Again, it took me a few minutes and I picked right up on it. What I did like about the M40 is you do get a steel cylinder factory, which is great. You're not dealing with that soft metal or something else. You've got this really good platform to start building off of. So once I got the piston in, the spring guide with the bearings on it, and the new much stiffer spring, I was almost ready to go. Now, but this is where I ran into my challenges. What's unique about this is the sear from VFC is a little bit longer than the standard sears. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the sear is the part that holds the piston. When you cock the rifle back, it goes up and holds the piston in that back position. And when you pull the trigger, that sear is released and the BB fires. So the sear kind of drops out of the way and the piston flies forward. Now the stock VSC one, like I said, it's just like a couple millimeters, if even that much, longer than the standard for VSR10 components. And again, that's what this thing takes, is VSR10 internal components. So what I had to do was, when I finished putting together the trigger box and I ran into some issues where it was dragging, I actually had to shim the box down. What I did was I grabbed a couple basic airsoft, like actual gear shims you would use for the internals of an AEG. I was able to put like the thickest they make, did one on the front, one on the back of the trigger box assembly to pull it off of that cylinder, and then I was up and running. But that is something with almost every sniper rifle upgrade. When I did my research before I got into this one, it seems that most everyone, unless you're getting a true Marui like VSR10 or something like that, you're gonna have to do a little bit of tech work. So just kind of be prepared, do your research and get in there. But once you know, it is set. By the way, I'll also have all my parts listed down below and where I picked them up. So if you guys are interested in kind of replicating what I did here and following the pictures I did to shim up the trigger box, you guys can look down in the description and pick those, or you can pick your favorite internal sniper rifle upgrade parts. So now that everything was in, I took it out to the chrono and this thing was humming. On 0.2 gram BBs, I was in the low to mid 500s. It's still settling in. So I think once that spring kind of gets down to that happy spot, I'll probably end up balancing it out about 530 feet per second, which is actually under my field limits here in Nashville, Tennessee, at Bad Karma Field, where I'm gonna be using this. If you guys have something else, you may wanna go with a softer spring. Again, it's so easy. You just gotta change the spring out. It's not a big deal on this platform. I just chose a little stronger spring so I could take advantage of all the FPS my field allows. And of course, it's actually not that hard to pull back with the steel cylinder and everything. I didn't have an issue and I didn't feel like I was gonna break it. I feel, in some of the other guns, you do feel like you're gonna break these things, but this one, it's not a problem at all. So guys, bottom line, I can't wait to get this thing out and play with it and really run through its paces on the field. I've got it shooting well, I've got it feeding great, and the hop up is dialed in for a much heavier weight BB. I'm gonna be running like at least 3.2s on this, maybe even 0.4s, depending on how I got it all dialed in and how windy the day is. So guys, stay tuned for the gameplay footage with this. I'm gonna try to get out in a couple big milsim events, and I will definitely have this at my local field, but I will have it dialed back to like 500 on the big milsim events. So stay tuned on that one. So guys, what do you think about sniper rifles on the battlefield? I started off with the one I think everybody did, or everybody wants to get one at some point, and then you kind of gravitate to ASGs. But once you can turn these things up, it really kind of gives you the advantage on the battlefield. But what do you think about it? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's not worth it? Do you think you're just gonna get, you know, overrun by a bunch of ASG users? Let me know down there in the comment section below. Well guys, that's it for this episode of the Gear Guide. I'll be back in the next episode where I take a sniper rifle, downgrade to 100 feet per second to see how short the range is.